I'm going to be quite honest with you chums, this was supposed to be a very different video. I was going to talk about Mill Hill East. Now, Mill Hill East is a station on the Northern Line in North London, and it's a bit of an oddity. It's at the end of a single-track branch line from Finchley Central, on which it is the only station. The area it serves is not exactly an urban hub. Definitely a bit strange, definitely worth a video. While I was exploring, the sat-nav on my phone kept trying to send me down a street that was not there. Following this, out of curiosity, I found this. This is the route of the abandoned railway to Edgware, and the real reason the Mill Hill East branch exists. And had history gone a little differently, this too might have been part of the underground. It all started in 1862 with the formation of a company called the Edgware, Highgate and London Railway. This was a railway intended to connect various towns and villages north of London with the Great Northern Railway, which was the main line out of King's Cross. It was a pretty risky venture. The area it was serving was quite sparsely populated. Furthermore, this area was nicknamed the Northern Heights. In other words, it was a hilly region that presented a lot of engineering challenges, viaducts, tunnels and steep gradients. It would be expensive and challenging to build, costing considerably more and taking considerably more time than planned. A series of landslips caused the company to throw up their hands and approach the Great Northern Railway for a merger, which took place in 1867. In August that year, the branch from Finchley to Edgware was opened. Finchley Central was originally called, somewhat optimistically, Finchley and Hendon. The next station was Mill Hill East, then just known as Mill Hill. Today, this is where the line ends, but you can very clearly see the embankment where the line originally continued. The final station was at Edgware, which in those days was a small village with a population of about 800 people. Originally, the line was supposed to be double track. In fact, you can see that there's clearly space for a second track. But given how relatively unpopulated the area was, the Great Northern Railway didn't think it was worth it. That was all to change. As so often happened, the presence of a railway prompted suburban development in the area. It was a pleasant part of the world, and the railways put it within easy reach of the city. The Great Northern Railway's investment was beginning to pay off, but not on the Edgware line. Development was slow and trains were underused. Trains ran along the line on a shuttle basis, and a single coach was often sufficient for demand. In the 1890s, Mill Hill began to grow and the residents demanded trains all the way to King's Cross, which they didn't use. In 1906, a new station was opened between Mill Hill and Edgware. This was called the Hale. It was here where these flats are. This station began as a halt for farm traffic, but the coming of new housing resulted in the halt getting some passengers too. It was more or less next to the Midland Railway's Mill Hill station, which is now Mill Hill Broadway. You'd think more development would be a good thing, but not so. New development caused other entrepreneurs to turn their eyes to the area. In 1924, the London Underground built their own branch line to Edgware. This looked very swish and modern compared to the steam trains of the older line. In 1927, the London General Omnibus Company started a bus service in direct competition with the railway, serving the same places. In 1928, so too did the Birch Brothers Bus Company. London General, not incidentally, was owned by the Combine, the organisation that also owned the Underground line to Edgware. It seems more than likely that this bus service was a deliberate attack on their competitors. In 1928, Mill Hill, the Great Northern Railway's one, was renamed Mill Hill East. The area had developed to the point where you could definitively say, here is the centre. The Hale became Mill Hill the Hale that same year. But that did nothing for passenger numbers, which were still low. In the 1930s, it looked like help was on the way from a very unexpected source. London's underground bus and tram services had come under the control of the London Passenger Transport Board, or London Transport for short, in 1933. The first order of business was a massive programme of improvements known as the New Works Programme, the proposal for which was published in 1935. Among the many features of the programme, the lines of the Edgware, Highgate and London Railway were to be taken over by the Underground and used to extend the Northern Line. The plan with our line was to double-track it, electrify it, and modernise the station. The old Edgware station would be abandoned, and instead the line would run into the underground station. Mill Hill the Hale was to get a new booking hall which would connect it to Mill Hill Broadway. On the 1st of September 1939 the branch line closed for work to commence, and then, 2 days later, the Second World War broke out. Initially work on the Northern Line extensions kept going, but gradually slowed due to a shortage of workers and materials, and in 1941 stopped altogether. The double track got as far as Mill Hill the Hale, complete with electrification, but the second track got pulled up again because the materials were needed for the war effort. These concrete posts would have held cabling and can be seen wherever the trackbed is visible. After the war the plan was to recommence, but for various reasons it just didn't. There wasn't much money or material to go around in the post-war era. The Greenbelt put paid to plans to extend beyond Edgware, and without that it was decided it just wasn't economical to proceed with the rest. In 1950 the project was officially abandoned. The section from Finchley Central to Mill Hill East, which already had tube trains running, was kept. This includes the Dollis Brook Viaduct, which is the highest point above ground level on the entire underground network. The rest of the line was kept for freight only, but in 1964 this too was ended, and the following year the track was lifted. Since then, parts of the route have been built over, however parts of it can be followed on foot, and that's what you've been looking at. The southern part is the Copthall Railway Walk, and the northern is the Mill Hill Old Railway Nature Reserve, which is open at weekends. These peaceful nature reserves are home to a number of rare species of plants and animals, so in the end, at least some good came from the cancellation of the project. Well, I hope you enjoyed this overgrown tale from the tube. If you did, please do hit the like button and subscribe for more. I'm thinking I'd like to do an overview of the Northern Heights programme at some point, and maybe a video outlining the entirety of the New Works programme. I keep alluding to it, but I don't think I've ever sort of explained the whole thing in detail. So, hopefully stick around for that. Thanks as ever to my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You are the abandoned railway line to my thriving colony of slowworms. And I'll see you all again very soon for another tale from the tube.